Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking here in my basement, the great state of Kansas, and I am doing a live stream, an impromptu live stream. Didn't give me notice, just I want to do it sometime this week, and I was kind of busy doing stuff today, and so now it's 8:25 p.m. My time in Kansas, and so I'm doing kind of a late live stream. Um, it feels like I'm behind on everything because I was gone for 18 days. So I'm starting to get back into the. And then when I got back this last week, I was sick the whole week. So I'm now just starting to finally feel better and good enough to start doing live stream or do videos and live streams and stuff like that. And so I'm kind of behind on everything that I've been working on and trying to get into the swing of things. And one of the things is I haven't done a what I've been watching in a while, and so I have a pretty big list of movies that I watched that I haven't covered or reviewed at all, anyways. And to be honest, I haven't really been watching that. Of course, I was on vacation, like I said, for 18 days, so I didn't watch a whole lot. I watched some movies on the plane, and actually, I'll talk about one of those on here. In fact, that I saw on the plane. But yeah, I haven't been watching as many stuff lately because I had vacation and I came back and I was sick and uh, I haven't been watching too much stuff, to be honest. I mostly just watch YouTube, all my friends' YouTube channels and other YouTube channels and whatever I want to watch on YouTube. So I need to get back into start watching some more stuff because I know there's so many new stuff out right now that I want to watch. But anyway, so yeah, that's what I'm doing here. Still gonna talk about do some movie reviews. Some of these movies came out last year, so or came out earlier this year, so they're late movie reviews. So I apologize, but that's where I'm at. Yeah, so I got a big list. So I don't know how much I'll get through, but I'll try to get through as much as I can. I don't want to be too long of a live stream, but we'll see. So the first movie I have on my list actually is Avatar 2. Movie came out last year. It was nominated for Best Picture. I believe it was the hey Abby, yeah, I know. I need to get back to my Beatles list. I need to get back to my 100 favorite albums list. I still need to complete those lists, and I'm getting pretty close on the Beatles list. So I think I only have a couple more, well, not a couple more, but 4 or 5 more videos to get through the Beatles. That's definitely one I want to start getting through that as well. That was a possibility today, but I decided I don't know. I just want to do a live stream because I haven't really done one by myself like this in a while. So, but yeah, I will get to that Beatles list, Abby. But yeah, Avatar 2. So I believe it was the highest grossing movie last year. I was not looking forward to this movie at all because I wasn't a big fan of the first one. Not that it's the worst movie in the world. It's just the first Avatar I saw in the theater, and I was just pretty bored with it. It felt not like a very original idea. Like it felt more like a Pocahontas type movie, like the uh, again I'm forgetting the name, the Blue Aliens. I just call them Blue Aliens. The Navi, I believe. Yeah, the Navi. They felt like Native Americans, and and we got the military, and it's kind of like the Spanish conquistadors coming in and taking over the land and battling the Native Americans, so it definitely felt like they were going off of like American history there and all that. And I don't know, something about these blue aliens that I have a hard time caring about because they're just these big blue aliens. And I'm like, I care more about the humans than I do about these blue aliens. And so I don't know, I never really got into the characters that well and wasn't that crazy. But anyways, and it was a pretty long movie and all that. Anyway, so going back to Avatar 2, I finally got around to this was several months ago. I finally got around to seeing Avatar 2 because it came on HBO Max or Max right now and Disney Plus. And it's a 3-hour movie, which I was like, man, I do not want to watch a 3-hour movie of big blue aliens. But I finally got myself to do it. And I have to admit, it was better than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was going to be this really boring, 3-hour long, boring movie. And all the reviews I heard, it sounded like it was kind of a boring movie. And I'll say, yeah, it was better than I expected. Still wasn't a good movie. I still give it a 2.5 out of 5 stars, which is a light not recommend. So surprisingly, because I thought it was going to be like a 1-star movie. So the fact that I'm giving it 2.5 to me was like, wow, this was much better than I thought it was. Still not a recommendable movie. Still not a movie I would buy or watch again necessarily, but still not the worst thing in the world. I will say, like, out of 3 hours, every hour seemed like a new movie. I felt like you could have split this up into three different movies. Each hour felt like a different climax or a different, section of the movie. Because first we deal with the people, our main characters now, that are Navi, running away from the military, whatever that's coming in and trying to track down the main guy, Sully, I believe his name is, and his family. So he moves his family out of the jungle, and they move to this. Evidently, there's different cultures of Navi. They're in the jungle culture, so they go to the water culture. Of course, that's why it's called Way of Water. They go to this other culture, Navi, who are slightly different and slightly different culture, and they deal with water. They're really good at swimming, holding their breaths, and they ride these fish things through under the water, and they talk to whales, and they fish, I guess, and they know a lot about that kind of stuff. So he moves them there, and that's the second part of the movie. It's like that's the first part is them running away from the military. Second part is them learning this new culture, and definitely was the most boring, slow moving part of the movie was just them learning the new culture. Then the third act was actually very exciting, very action packed, where they had to face off against the military guy who was the bad guy in the first movie. He's now in Avatar, and him and his group of Marines or whatever are now attacking. They tracked him down, and they're gonna kill him, his family, or whatever. Anyway, so then it's very action packed, the third act, and so I thought the third act actually was really good. I like the action. I like the Navi riding those fish, whatever things, and they're going through under the water and all that stuff. Like I thought actually that was like really cool. And yeah, it was actually really well done. And in fact, the very end of the movie, not spoiling anything, is very emotional. There's a very emotional moment at the end of the movie that actually felt kind of the emotions. Well, I was kind of surprised when I was like, wow, this is actually a really good emotional moment. They did a good job on. So there's a lot of stuff they actually did a really good job on. Like I said, special effects were absolutely amazing. Um, I still was like, I don't know. I still have a hard time caring about blue aliens, and that's where it probably would be hard for me to ever really like the series Avatar, just because I haven't gotten over like caring about the blue aliens, big blue aliens. It's just the Navi. So I don't know. I need to get over that to be able to maybe give it a recommendation. Plus, they're obviously just so long. I wish they were, an hour shorter, maybe, or at least 30 minutes shorter, maybe 45 minutes shorter. It might help the movie pace a little bit. But yeah, so Avatar 2, like, not recommend, but not a terrible movie, I would say. If you like the first one, I think you like the second one. All right, next movie I have on my list is Sisu. This was I forget, from another country. And this was one I caught on like video on demand some months ago. And it was one that I saw. I've never seen the trailer for this when I saw John Wick Chapter 4. They had a trailer for this movie, and it's like this guy, and it's like World War II, and he's like this old, he's looking for gold or whatever, and he finds gold, and then the Nazis wanted to take it from him. So then he goes into, beast mode and starts killing them. Um, yeah, like I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, okay, this looks a little too over the top. And I'm saying that from somebody who's a John Wick fan. John Wick's a bit over the top, and I love John Wick, but I even was like, okay, the Sisu looks a little over the top type of action, but I was still kind of intrigued because I like action movies. So I'm like, maybe I'd give it a chance. I wasn't sure. It was a foreign language type film, I believe. I forget what country it came from. But I remember hearing a lot of people giving it good reviews, and I think one of the things people liked was that it was not very long. It was, it's a 90-minute or less movie, which is nice, and it's a pretty simple story, lots of action, pretty low budget. I think people like that because there's all these overly budgeted movies, so much CGI action, and so I think people like the fact that it was more simpler type action movie. Anyway, so it got some good buzz around it, and so finally I was like, I'll watch it. I like to watch a you know s- crazy action movie. I love good action movies, so I'm like I'm willing to watch a cheesy action movie and just have a little fun with it. Anyways, But yeah, so I finally caught this, and I thought this was a really terrible movie. Like, it was too over the top on the action, that I just it was so unbelievable. The action moments, there's things he does that it's like there's no way he could survive. I mean, and I'm saying this coming from someone who likes action movies, where it's pretty common for the good guy to survive unbelievable odds. I mean, James Bond, like I said, Mission Impossible, John Wick. I mean, yeah, they're all probably shouldn't survive, but Suzu took it to another level that I thought was just too unbelievable. And I kind of came to a point I was like, I just can't do this movie. And it was just, yeah, it was just, I didn't like what they did with it. I mean, there's stuff like they shoot out with machine guns, and he like has like a he had some kind of like shield thing, round shield thing that only covers like a very small part of his body, and somehow he doesn't get shot by these machine guns shooting at him. And that's even the trailer. But the craziest thing is, I think at one point, if I remember right, I'm trying to remember this because some months ago when I saw this, and I believe he gets in an airplane, and the airplane crashes, and he survives the crash. And that was just like the worst part of the whole movie. It was like that was the part of the movie where I just go, okay, I'm done with this movie. Like, this is just too stupid. Yeah, the only good thing I would say is there's this part where he's going after these Nazis who are after him because he has gold, and he comes across a truck full of young women that are obviously getting like sexually abused by the Nazi commanders, whatever. By one specifically, they're getting sexually abused, and so he frees them, and then they get guns, and then they start killing the Nazis, and that was the best part of the movie because it's like, yes, I want to see these women, get their revenge against these terrible Nazis, abusing them. And there's one great shot where all these like 5 or 6 women, these young girls, or whatever, having machine guns, and there's a really great shot of all of them, uh, you know, walking kind of almost in a line almost, really greatly, choreographed and shot. That's the only part I really kind of enjoyed about that. But Suzu, I'd give it, 2 out of 5 stars. A strong not recommend. Next movie I'll talk about is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Amongst Thieves. That came out earlier this year, and this is one. It was funny when this. I remember when this trailer came out, and it was like a decent trailer. In fact, it's another one where I saw the trailer when I went and saw like John Wick Chapter 4, maybe. I think I saw the trailer, and it has obviously a fantasy element, action fantasy. Like, I like action fantasy, so it actually had kind of something to it that I was like, okay, it's kind of interesting. And it has Chris Pine, which I like in it. But then you see it's Dungeons and Dragons, and something about Dungeons and Dragons, that name, puts off a red flag in my head. And I think that's because they made a Dungeons and Dragons movies back in the maybe late 90s, early 2000s, and it really bombed. It was like a really terrible movie. And so when I saw Dungeons and Dragons, I don't know why, something came up to me where I was like, oh man, I don't have a good feeling about this movie. And so I never cared to go see it in the theater, of course. And only when it came to video on demand, I was finally like, okay, I'll check this out. Because again, who knows? It might be a fun movie, action, fantasy, magic, dragons or whatever, all this kind of stuff. Anyways, so I finally caught it, and man, was I surprised of how good this movie is. It's one of my favorite movies of the year. It's in my top 5 right now, favorite movies I've seen so far this year. I thought this was a really, really fun movie with actually an interesting story. Chris Pine is great as the main character. It's a pretty good cast of characters. I love the fantasy elements work really well. The climax is really good. I thought they did a great job. And overall, it was a really funny movie. I laughed a lot. It had some really good gags throughout the movie. In fact, that really that surprised me how good it was. Um, One of my favorite gags is they kind of have this magical spell. They need to find this object, I believe, if I remember right. And they go to this graveyard because there's a battle that happened, and all these people buried were died in this battle, I believe. And so they're trying to find someone. They have to ask the dead people, what happened to this object that they're looking for. And so they have a spell that they can cast on each one individually, I guess. And they'll cast it on a dead person. They'll come back to life, and they can ask them 3 questions. And when they ask them 3 questions and they answer the 3 questions, then they go back to being dead and you can't wake them up again. And it is one of the greatest gags I've ever seen, like one of the best ideas, and it's absolutely hilarious because they ask one guy, one dead guy, they ask him, or first he'll ask him like 3 questions on accident or something like that, and then and then, oh, okay, now we got to dig up another dead guy, ask him these 3 questions. So they keep going to different dead guys, and they'll ask them, questions, and be like, and you get kind of the story of what happened to this object, and go, oh, okay, this other guy knows. I remember last time I saw it before I died, this guy had it. So then they go, okay, now we got to go wake up this dead guy. And then they'll forget that they have to ask this guy a third question before he can go back to sleep. And so he's still like, please ask me the third question. I want to go back to being dead. Anyway, so it was absolutely hilarious, funny gag. Anyways, but it was full of stuff like that. And I see my sister Abby liked it too. Good. Yeah, I highly recommend, if you haven't seen Dungeons and Dragons, Armor Sleeves, it's definitely a movie you need to watch. Really fun movie. All right, next on my list is that I got some documentaries actually that I've watched kind of recently. One is called 100 Years of Warner Brothers, which is I think it was like a 4-part documentary on Max, if you have a Max subscription. And it is a really good documentary. I really enjoyed this documentary. And it just kind of goes to the history of the Warner Brothers from the beginning, how it was, of course, obviously there were some brothers named Warner that came together and started the studio, and and it goes through the history of Warner Brothers Studios, and kind of gives you a lot of clips of all of the famous movies that they've done. And then they do interviews with people about it. Anyway, so they go from all the way to current day, and the footage they put out there is great. I love seeing all the movie footage and them talking about each movie, all the big movies. And the interviews are absolutely fantastic. And you learn so much about the Warner Brothers studio, and also all the movies they made, which they made, so many huge movies. It's one of the biggest studios, of course, in Hollywood. And obviously WB does, DC, and they did Harry Potter was the big series ever. And yeah, so many big stuff. But yeah, so that's something, if you have Max, I definitely say check that documentary out. Really, really good. Another documentary that yeah, I give it 5 out of 5 stars, I guess I should say, documentaries. But the next one is The Story of Nintendo, which is a documentary about the Nintendo system, gaming system. And this one I found on video on demand, basically. And I've seen documentaries about video gaming. There's been so many video gaming documentaries. I love a good video game documentary because I grew up playing video games, of course, as a kid, because I was a kid of the 80s. So we started with Atari. And then, I remember Nintendo came out and the Game Boy came out, and that was huge. I had a Game Boy as a kid. And then the very first system I had was a Super Nintendo back in the early 90s. I didn't get a Nintendo for some reason, but I got the Super Nintendo, and that was a huge deal. I spent so many hours every weekend playing that game. Like every chance I got, I was playing Super Nintendo. Absolutely loved that. Of course, then I moved up to Nintendo 64 in the late 90s, and that was absolutely fantastic. Those are the two game systems that I have a lot of nostalgia for. And Nintendo, so Nintendo is a big deal to me. I grew up playing Nintendo games, and I was a big fan of Mario, big fan of Zelda, Donkey Kong, um, Star Fox. Yeah, so many great Metroid. I mean, so many great uh, Nintendo-based, video games, franchises that came out during that time, and I absolutely loved all that. So this definitely was a documentary made for me. And I've seen a lot of stuff about Nintendo before, so it didn't necessarily break new ground. It was a decent documentary. It wasn't very long, if I remember right. It was kind of a short documentary. I think that's one of the things I would criticize. Like, I would love to see the documentary maybe be a little bit longer, more information. But it's a good documentary to kind of get the history of Nintendo, because didn't start as a gaming system. Of course, as a Japanese company, a guy started as Japanese playing cards, because back in the day, I forget when this was. Japanese men loved to play playing cards anyways. Nintendo started as a card game system, I guess, whatever, like that. And then it kind of developed when uh, the president or somebody saw somebody, and then he was on a train, and you have these long train rides, and somebody was playing something on the train, and he saw that, oh, people need something to do while they're sitting there on the train. All you can do is read. You can read a book or a newspaper, and that's about it. And so that's when he came with the idea. Is like, we need to come up with some kind of gaming thing that you can play the game while you're on the train. And so he came up with some kind of, very, this is back, before they had much technology. And so it was very simple games that he kind of invented with Nintendo brand on it. And that took off and did very well. And he found out there was a real market for games, handheld games first. And then he developed that into, a game system, Nintendo, and also the Game Boy were the two big things. And those took off, and Nintendo made a bunch of money. Anyway, so it goes through all of that. I'm giving a little bit of the history there. Of course, Mario, how, it comes from Donkey Kong, was a big game, arcade game. And you had Mario, who was called Jumpman at the time, and you had the princess, and he was trying to climb up these ladders to get to the princess to save from Donkey Kong. And that's where we get Mario, and then we got the Mario game. The Mario game was absolutely huge, Super Mario Brothers. And so it was interesting kind of getting all that history of how that was created, and then the different video game systems, anyways, overall, really good documentary. I wouldn't say it's the best documentary I've seen on video gaming. And like I said, I thought that was a little short. So, I mean, I'd still give it, like 3.5 stars out of 5. Still a highly recommended, or still a really solid recommend if you like video games, or you know anything about it. Very good documentary on that. Then I guess I'll end it with, I think, the best documentary I've seen this year, and that is Arnold, which you probably have heard of. It's a big documentary on Netflix. Netflix is a 3-part documentary on Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I read his books a couple years ago, Total Recall, and it is one of the best autobiographies I've ever read. And Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of the most interesting people I've ever read about. Say what you will about his acting. Obviously, he was a huge action star in the 80s and 90s when I was growing up, so he's a big deal. I was always a big fan of him as a kid. I always liked his action movies, over the top, type stuff, very violent. As a kid, I loved that, the over violent movies that he did. Um, and of course, he got into politics, so there's a lot of that in there. So say what you will about his, acting, politics. He's not the greatest actor in the world, not the greatest of this, but man, he accomplished so much for a guy who came from Austria right after World War II, and they were super poor, came from a super poor family, and didn't have much, to hope for really, but he had such ambition to want to be the greatest at, be the greatest bodybuilder, and then also be an actor, and then later be a politician. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy all that he accomplished. I mean, way more than any of us, probably anybody watching this will accomplish in their life. And something, fascinating. The fact that at a young age he decided that I'm gonna be the greatest bodybuilder, or he wanted to be an actor in America because he would watch these movies. He'd watch these Hercules movies, and the guy who played Hercules was a bodybuilder. And so it was interesting how he, at a young age, he was like, I wanted to get to America because America, he felt, was the greatest country, which is interesting because he's not American, he's Austrian. But I think he knew that they were having a lot of issues in Austria. And I think everything he saw on TV and media, it just looked like America was, a much better country, and which I believe it is as well. And so it's kind of interesting how he kind of had this ambition at a young age that, oh, to get to America and to become an actor, first I need to become the greatest bodybuilder because I want to be like this guy in Hercules. And so he just worked so hard. I mean, I can't imagine how hard you have to work to be a bodybuilder. All you do all day is lift weights, and really, really heavy weights and exercise. And that's not my kind of thing. And so he goes off and becomes, builds himself up to being the best, bodybuilder in Austria and then Europe. And then he's going to these, Mr. Universe and Mr. Olympia type, things. And he does come over to America because of how good he is at bodybuilding. And he's obviously the most famous bodybuilder we ever had. And I don't know where he is in the list of things. I know at one time he broke the record for the most wins. He won like 3 or 4 of them, like in a row. Like nobody could beat this guy. Anyways, and so he came over to America, became the greatest bodybuilder, and then bodybuilders don't usually become actors. That's not a thing you really see that often. So the idea that he's a guy who never acted in his life, who barely knows English, is going to be a big movie star. But it was like the perfect timing. Like the '80s was just a great time for big muscled action stars. They really took off. Obviously Sylvester Stallone was also huge in the '80s period, and he was a very muscular guy. But of course, that was kind of what appealing to me as a kid watching Arnold, because I remember watching just how big his muscles were. It was just incredible. Like I've never seen anybody with big muscles like that in movies, and it was something fascinating to watch this huge muscular guy, on the screen. Like I don't know, I was always amazed by it. So it worked out great, of course, because he made all these movies, and Conan, of course, the Barbarian really took off, his first like hit stuff, and then just all these projects were just perfect for him. Like Terminator was just a perfect project for him, and really cemented him as this huge icon, and he rode that to do all kinds of stuff, and he got better as an actor. He got better English, and all that. But yeah, the documentary, I should say, it starts off. It's 3 parts. The first part is his bodybuilding. It's kind of interesting how you can kind of break his career into 3 parts. First part is all about his bodybuilding, his growing up and becoming a big bodybuilder, which to me is fascinating because I don't know anything about the bodybuilding world, but it was kind of interesting to learn about that part. Anyways, I kind of learned that through the book, but it was interesting to see it on the documentary as well. So they did a really good job there. Of course, second part is his movie part, which to me is the most interesting part because I like movies, and I followed his career since I was a kid. So the second part, following his whole career as a movie actor, and then the third part was my least favorite part. In fact, I didn't care much for the third part. I was kind of quit after the second part. But I went through most of the third part. I think fast forward through quite a bit because third part was all about his political career, running for governor, being governor of California. I don't know. I don't care much about his political career. That's like the least interesting part to me. Though it still is interesting the fact that he became governor, this guy from Austria as a kid, coming over to America and becoming the governor of one of the biggest states. I mean, in America, it's bigger than most countries. I mean, it's just a crazy story and it's crazy that happened, and it's really well done documentary. I'd say it's my favorite one this year. Of course, Arnold's in it. He does a lot of interviews and he talks about personal stuff in his life, and very so he does a real good job really opening himself up and to stuff. And we see him in his house, and it's shot very well, of course. And he like has like a book that he opens it, and we see pictures of him and his family or whatever. Anyway, so and of course lots of interviews with all kinds of people that worked with him. But yeah, definitely check out Arnold if you haven't. It was a great documentary on Netflix. Again, 5 out of 5 stars for sure. All right, next I'm going to talk about actually my favorite movie, or this is my favorite movie of the year, and I'm kind of surprised. I wasn't expecting it to be anything. It's one of those hidden gem movies to me that just like spoke to me, and nobody else is probably going to say this is their favorite movie. I'll be the only one, but it's called Jesus Revolution. And this is a movie that I learned about from my dad because my dad, I remember telling me there's this movie. I think maybe I saw some trailers or I saw some advertisement, but didn't really know much about what the movie was about, or didn't know anything, didn't really care that much for some reason. But then my dad saw the movie, I guess, on TV or something, and he was telling me about this movie, Jesus Revolution, and the story. And I was like, wow, this is like it's based off a true story. And I was like, wow, this is actually a really interesting story, a historical thing that happened that I didn't know anything about. And so I kind of got interested in it because my dad enjoyed the movie, I think, and was talking about it. And so then one time I was over at his house again. This was some months ago. I was over at my parents' house, and he's like, "Oh, let's watch Jesus Revolution." I'm like, "All right, yeah, I haven't seen it, so we always try to find something new to watch, that I haven't seen anyways." And so we're watching Jesus Revolution, and it's always hard because obviously it's a faith-based movie. Faith-based movies, definitely very manipulative of your emotions, and sometimes the acting is not the greatest. Maybe the storylines are cheesy. And I watch a fair amount of faith-based movies because I'm a Christian, and I do get some enjoyment out of them because I do like the faith aspect of these movies and all this. Anyway, so I was definitely open to watch this movie, and yeah, it's a very interesting story, true story. Done in California during I think the late '60s into the '70s. A guy named I think his name was Chuck Smith was a pastor of a small congregation there, and of course there's a huge hippie movement in the '60s, and so there's these hippies that also converted to Christianity during this time, and the hippies were having a hard time getting accepted though by the more conservative Christians because the way they looked, they had the long hair, the long beard, they were the kind of clothes they wore wasn't quite what we expected, especially at that time. Everybody wore suits and ties, in the '60s and '70s, and dresses and all that. So definitely they were looking in their clean cut, So the hippies just really stood out, and so most congregations didn't want them in their church, I think. And so it's kind of a story of this guy who's like allowed these hippies to come into his church. And the idea of like Jesus didn't send people back. Jesus accepted everybody no matter what they looked like, and what circumstances they were in. And so he kind of really takes this idea of like, yeah, I should be more accepting of other people. And so he kind of brings in these hippies in, and the leader kind of this hippie group is his name is Lonnie Freeman, I believe his name was. And um, and he was kind of really good charismatic speaker who kind of was the leader in this hippie movement, or this hippie Jesus Revolution movement, where he was converting other people into Christianity. And so it's kind of interesting. There's this big like it's called revolution. There's just a big influx of hippie converts during this time period in the late '60s in California. Of course, California was kind of the capital of hippies. That's where all the hippies. It seems like we're in California. And so it's kind of interesting, this idea of bringing in these people that look different and all this. And anyways, and kind of they brought in something kind of new culture wise. Some would say were bad. My dad, I think, would say like some of the stuff they brought in was not good. But yeah, I do like the idea that you know God uses people who aren't perfect. In the Bible, God's always using Paul. In the Bible is not perfect. He was going after Christians before he got converted. David did bad stuff. You look at anybody in the Bible, it seems like they're very flawed individuals. Even if you look at Gideon, was a very flawed individual. Samson, very flawed individual. But God uses flawed people to uh, either present the gospel to others or to bring people to do His will, to bring people to Him. Show God's power. He shows His power towards with through people. And so it's kind of interesting idea of like you don't have to be a perfect person for God to use you, because God will use. We're all flawed, and God uses flawed people. And so I think that was one of my favorite messages of the movie that I really clinged on to, and I feel like that's what it was like for this Lonnie Freeman. He was a very flawed individual. He had definitely some big issues. They don't go through all of them, in fact, in the movie, but they do kind of go through some of them. But it's interesting how this little church, through Lonnie Freeman and Chuck Smith, a small congregation grows into this huge church, this huge, like, I don't know if there's not, maybe not mega, but, and they started uh, baptizing people into the ocean. Of course, they're right by the coast of the ocean. And so they're out there. And that's one of the cool moments. My favorite moment of the movie really is like them out there baptizing people, and people not really understanding exactly what this movement is, but they're intrigued because there's all this, big, a lot of people, are coming and talking about it. And so these people who really didn't know Jesus or know anything about Christianity got kind of swept up in this thing and became Christians. And so it was great to see that. Of course, as a Christian, there's nothing better than seeing people convert to Christianity. That's always my favorite part in faith-based movies or other movies like that. Anyway, so to me, that was a very emotional, I guess. And why I like this movie so much is I don't think there's another movie. There wasn't another movie this year so far that made me feel the emotions of this one. Jesus Revolution made me feel a lot of emotions. You know, I kind of teared up a little bit at those times when people were converting Christianity and he's baptizing them. Both Chuck Smith and Lonnie Freeman were baptizing people into the ocean, anyways. And to me, that was a great moment in the movie. There's another character, which I'm forgetting his name, who also plays a big part, who's kind of gets swept in the hippie movement, the drug culture, and him and his girlfriend. And then they kind of realize that the drug culture was bad for them because people are dying and all that, and they weren't religious. But then when they found this this church and Lonnie Freeman speaking, it kind of you know helped sway them to convert to Christianity and get baptized and all that. And so that's great seeing it through their eyes of converting to Christianity. And what's interesting is that individual, which I'm forgetting his name right now, but he'd go on to be a pastor. And I think today he still lives in California, and he's pastor of one of the biggest mega churches in America. So it's interesting how, this guy, very flawed individual, Lonnie Freeman, though, was able to reach this guy who then would go on to be a major preacher and, have a huge, impact. So that's kind of interesting. Anyways, overall, I just think it's a very interesting, true story that I never knew anything about. So I love the idea that I learned a lot from the movie. And then again, I said the emotional moments were really great to me. And I thought the actor who played Lonnie Freeman, I forget his name, John Rumi or something like that, Romy. He plays Jesus in The Chosen, which he's great as Jesus in The Chosen. And I thought he gave a really great performance. I thought he gave the best performance of the movie as Lonnie Freeman. I thought, yeah, did just an amazing job. Kelsey Grammer is really good as Chuck Smith. So it was interesting seeing, a very, well-known actor like Kelsey Grammer in the movie role. And he does a really good job there as well. But yeah, overall, I thought the performance was actually pretty good for a faith-based movie. I would say the criticism is the love story that's in there between the two younger individuals that you kind of follow. The love story is not great. Like it's a little the dialogue's a little too cheesy, and everybody says that, and I agree with them. There are moments where the dialogue, like, oh, that's a little cringe dialogue. So that part of the story I didn't care for, that love story part. I was cared more about what was going on in the church and all the and the movement, anyways. But yeah, so overall, I really recommend Jesus Revolution. I get a 4 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a really really good movie. All right, so I'm getting through these movies pretty good actually. Next movie is a movie called Extraction 2, and I don't really have too much to say about this movie because um, I didn't see Extraction, the first movie. In fact, I think I saw 15 minutes of Extraction, which stars Chris Hemsworth. And I remember when this came out on Netflix, the first one, and everybody's talking about, oh, this next really cool. It's like the next, big action movie, and I love action movies. And so like, oh, good, I'll definitely watch it because it's an action movie. I remember I watched like the first 15 minutes of Extraction, and I was so bored with the first 15 minutes that I just stopped watching it, and I never finished Extraction. And so Extraction 2 came out, and I was like, I don't really care because I didn't care about the first movie. But it's been on a lot of people's lists of like maybe top 10 movies of the year so far. People who like, I've seen a lot of people, my YouTube friends, give this a really good review and say it's like a really good action movie and all this. And so I was like, oh, okay, I finally got around to watching it. And I have to say, I didn't like it. I was very disappointed with it. Again, I was just so bored with it, even though the action moments are actually pretty good. There are some good action scenes with some interesting, um, that do some interesting things in them. And so I would say the action is done pretty good, but anytime there's no action going on, it is a boring movie. Chris Hemsworth has no charisma at all, and he is great as Thor. I was thinking, I don't know if I've seen Chris Hemsworth really being good in anything besides when he plays Thor in the Thor movies or the Avenger movies. He's great. He's funny. He's got great charisma. I love seeing him on screen when I'm watching the Thor movies, and I can't think. I don't know if I've seen too much else that he's done outside that, but I would think he definitely has the good build for an action star. So I expected him to be pretty good in this movie, but I don't know. I found the character to be just a very boring, dull character, and the whole storyline just I could not care less about. So and this is gonna be weird for me to say, but the action was good, but the story was just killed it for me. I don't know, in the acting and everything, and so I'm still giving that like a 2 out of 5 stars. I'm giving it a very not recommend, very strong not recommend, even though other people would recommend it pretty high. I don't know, it didn't work for me for some reason. I don't know why. Um, all right, next movie I'm gonna talk about is a movie. Actually, the new movie, last new movie I saw, which I saw on the plane ride over here, or one of the first. I guess there's a couple movies I saw for the first time. But that's one that I saw on my way back home from Germany on the plane ride. This is one that I've been on my watch list for a while that I definitely wanted to get to that got good reviews, and that's called The Covenant. If you don't know this movie, it stars Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays a sergeant. I think he's a staff sergeant or something like the master sergeant. I think they call him Kinley. I believe his name, Master Sergeant Kinley, and he's a like army officer who's got a team, and this is during the Afghanistan war. They're in Afghanistan, and he has to go around and to these. They're trying to look for Taliban weapons that are being like stockpiled or whatever, and destroy them or something like that. So he's going around raiding these different Afghanistan homes because he's got intel maybe, or that they got weapons or something. So he has to go around and do that. So he needs a interpreter to go with him to talk to the Afghanistan people. And so that's kind of the whole movie's about. The main guy, the character name's Ahmed, and so he's a Afghanistan guy who's going to help. He's kind of somewhat trained, I guess, in the military, but he's not American. But he's helping the Americans, so he's got the American, uniform, and he's somewhat trained, in fighting and all that, evidently. But his main job really is just to interpret, to the back and forth, anyways. And so that's kind of how the movie starts. It is a very interesting movie. I like the subject matter. Jake Gyllenhaal is great, of course. He's one of my favorite actors out there today. And anyway, so while they're doing this, they get ambushed, and they have to go on the run basically, and they're being chased by the Taliban. And in fact, I'm spoiling the movie a little bit to get to the story, kind of what the main part of the story is. Jake Gyllenhaal character is basically like gets shot, and he's like going to die unless he gets medical treatment or he gets help anyway. So Ahmed, his interpreter, puts him on makes like a sled thing and drags him like for days to the military base so he can get help and all that. And he's helping him along the way, give him water and stuff, and he has to bargain with other people and keep an eye on him and also hide him when the Taliban are coming around to of course, because they're on high alert to kill these two guys that are in the area. Anyways, and so that was a very interesting part of the story, that this interpreter guy didn't need to do this. He goes well beyond what he needed to do to help, rescue this or save this guy, played by Kinley, played by Jake Gyllenhaal. So that was really interesting, that whole idea of him. And that's a pretty long part of the movie, in fact. And it's definitely very thrilling because you're like, oh my gosh, the Taliban are coming. How is he going to get out of this situation? So, very good job there. It was directed by Ritchie. What's his name? Famous UK director. He directed uh, Snatch, and directed the what's his name? I can't think right now. But Rich. His last name is Ritchie. Anyways, he's kind of a director some people hate. He's very over stylized, but this movie wasn't over stylized. I think it was a very straightforward movie. You wouldn't even know it was him directing it. He directed the Sherlock Holmes movies, I was going to say, with Robert Downey Jr. He's made some good stuff. Anyways, I like some of the stuff he's done. But yeah, anyway, so he does a really good job with that. And then the story kind of goes to Guy Ritchie. Thank you, Abby. I knew Abby. Abby's the one watching me. Yeah, Guy Ritchie. Anyways, uh, yeah, so it's interesting. He saves him, and then that's not the end of the story, because then Jake Gyllenhaal, after he recovers, wants to go back and try to get. Okay, now Ahmed is in hiding because the Taliban are after him, and he's living in Afghanistan with his wife, and I think his wife's pregnant or a child or something like that. So he wants to go back and try to get him, and get him to America. So he's working hard getting him a visa or getting him to come over to America. So he's not on the run from the Taliban anymore. So he's trying to save him. So it's a really cool story of, one guy risked his life to save Jake Gyllenhaal. So Jake Gyllenhaal risked his life to save him. And so it's a really cool story of friendship and loyalty, and kind of, yeah, making a promise and not breaking it. So overall, I give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a really solid recommended movie. I think definitely one to check out if you ever get across it. The Covenant, it's called. All right, next movie I get to is one I didn't think I was going to like, and I actually found myself really liking this movie. It's a really kind of over the top, fun movie, and it was much better than I expected it to be, and that is called Renfield. Renfield came out earlier this year, and I remember seeing the trailer again. I think I saw the trailer when I watched John Wick Chapter 4 because there was like 10 trailers before that movie, and I remember seeing the trailer, and and I remember hearing about the movie. I think before I saw the trailer, I knew there was a movie coming out with Nicolas Cage playing Dracula, and then Nicholas Holtz playing Renfield, his servant. Anyway, the trailer is so over the top, and it was a Red Bandit trailer. I remember, so they showed all the blood and gore of the movie. So I remember watching it, and like he's like ripping people's arms off, and there's blood like splatter everywhere. It's like holy cow, they're really going for it. Anyways, and I just thought it just looked real stupid, and I thought this can't be a good movie. Like it looks too over the top, cheesy. Anyway, so I had no interest in it, and I was on video on demand, and I was like one night, and I was like, I'm in the mood for a stupid, cheesy movie, as sometimes I am. And so I was like, I'll check out Renfield since it's a new movie. It's a fairly new movie that came out this year, and I like try to check out all the big movies that come out in the year. So I watched it, and man, I really enjoyed this movie. It was stupid fun. And I was thinking, like, after I watched, other movies, and I go, man, I just don't like this movie. Renfield is just I think it's just the acting. Nicolas Cage, Nicholas Hoult are so good in this movie, and I think that's what makes it such a fun movie and so enjoyable. Like I said, Chris Hemsworth had no charisma in Extraction 2, while in Renfield, Nicolas Cage is so good. He's over the top, but he's great as Dracula. He's really hamming up the performance, and it's great. Like I love Nicolas Cage when he's hamming it up. It just fits the character, fit the movie. And then Nicholas Hoult, I really like Nicholas Hoult. I think he's one of my favorite actors out there. He's in movies like Warm Bodies. He was in Mad Max Fury Road. He was in About a Boy way back in the day. I first saw him in. He's in X-Men movies. He's just one of these guys. I don't know. I just always really like him. He's something about him that he's got something charisma about him that I always enjoy him in movies. So I think that's what really made the movie fun. Is those two actors really did a great job. Also, one of the villain characters. I'm forgetting the guy's name, but he played the voice of Sonic in the 2 Sonic the Hedgehog movies, and I've seen him in a lot of TV shows. And he's a hilarious actor, and he plays kind of a villain character in this movie, and he's a lot of fun too. I forget his name right now, but anyways, he's great in it as well. The only character I didn't care for really was Awkwafina, who played like this female cop. She seemed like a bad cast. Like I didn't really believe her as a good cop person. Of course, she's always the comic relief characters, and she was a little bit, but she was kind of somewhat of a straight character to Nicholas Hoult in some ways. Anyways, so I don't know. To me, that was kind of bad casting. But Awkwafina seems like she's in every single movie I watch. She pops up in. So I think she's in too many movies now. But anyways, yeah, of course, if you know the movie, yeah, Nicolas Cage is Dracula, and he's kind of very, abusive towards Renfield. And Renfield's not really a bad guy, but he's working for Dracula, and he wants to please his master. And but in the back of him, he wants to be a good guy, and he wants to, do good things, and he wants to get away from. He knows this is like it's a toxic relationship, so he knows he needs to get away from this toxic relationship. And so, but yet can't. He's so drawn to Dracula, and Dracula, of course, very dangerous individual that can kill him. So, he knows there's a lot of risk there, but yet there's a part of him that wants to get away. Anyway, so it was actually kind of a fun storyline. I actually kind of enjoyed that whole idea, and like how he comes across he's supposed to kill this person, and he follows them to a meeting of people that are in toxic relationships, like a therapy session. And he kind of comes upon it and he finds out that he belongs in this group because he's in a toxic relationship with his master. And it's actually hilarious, actually. Some of the stuff, of course, he's talking about Dracula, but they don't know that. And there's some really funny stuff there. Anyways, there's a lot of action scenes in here. And they're over the top, bloody, very bloody action scenes, but it was so over the top that it didn't bother me that people were getting decapitated and arms were getting ripped off, like I said, because the blood was just like so over the top, like spraying everywhere. And yeah, and so the action scenes actually I thought were actually pretty fun and really well done. Like I said, it was a funny movie, good action. I enjoyed the performances. So yeah, overall, I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Very strong recommend, um, or a solid recommend, I guess I'd say 3.5. I get a very solid recommended movie. It's not the kind of movie I think I usually would like, but it was just one of those movies I just had a lot of fun with. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes I'll watch a movie and I just go, man, it's not the greatest, like, well-made movie, but man, I'm having fun with this movie. And so I sometimes, those are some of my favorite movies that I happen across. And it's somewhat of a surprise hidden gem for me. But yeah, I recommend Renfield to anybody. Like I said, you have to take a lot of bloody violence, but if you can take that, it's a good movie. All right, next movie to talk about is Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which I actually watched on the plane going to Germany from Chicago, and this was on there, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen this. I didn't really. I kind of made it a thing that I was going to watch DC anymore because I was so against Flash, the movie Flash, because of Ezra Miller. I think he's a horrible human being, and all the stuff that he's done, he should be canceled. He should not make a movie. And if he is in a movie, nobody should see it because we should not give this guy any money. He should go away and never return, in my opinion. So when the whole thing happened with Ezra Miller, and I thought, oh, well, they're not going to put him in the movie because it's not going to make any money because no one's going to watch a movie with this, horrible human being in it. And I was kind of surprised at how many of my YouTube friends were like, "Oh, I'm gonna see the Flash." I'm like, "How can you watch a Flash with that guy in it?" Like, I boycotted Flash basically. I was like, "I'm boycotting Flash," and I kind of boycotted everything DC at the time. I was like, in fact, I was so upset that everybody was going to go watch Flash that I was like, I'm gonna boycott all of DC in response because I was like, I'm just not gonna watch anything because I'm so mad at DC for not, for letting Ezra Miller be in that movie and make money off that movie. And so because I was so angry at DC at the time, I was like, I'm just going to watch anything coming out DC now in protest of them putting Ezra Miller or keeping him in the movie and not, either not. I know it's like, well, they made the movie, so they have to put it out or they're going to lose money. I get that, but it's like, I guess morality is more important to me than money. So I was like, I hate the fact that they put money in front of being, moral people, good people. And, so that's why I got mad about that. And so I wasn't going to watch Shazam Fury of the Gods, but then after Flash came out and it totally bombed, it made me so happy. I was like, okay, good. They're all good. They're all good human beings out there that are not going to watch this crap, movie because of this crap person. And so when I saw that it bombed, it made me so happy that I was like, okay, maybe I won't boycott all of DC because I'm pretty sure they're sorry that they kept Ezra Miller and Flash and they didn't do what I thought they should have done. It was either not come out with the movie or replace the character with another actor and reshoot the scenes, which I know that would cost a lot of money, but like I said, what's more important, morality or money? And if you're gonna put money in front of morality, then forget you. I don't care about you anymore. Anyway, so that was my feeling on it. But since that, I was like, okay, maybe I'll watch Shazam for the Gods. Uh, you know, because I'm so happy that DC lost money off of that Flash movie, and hopefully they learned their lesson. Is what I'm hoping. I guess if they haven't learned their lesson, then I might have to go back to boycotting DC. But I'm like, if they learned their lesson and they realize, okay, hopefully they fired Ezra Miller from ever being another DC movie, and they recast the Flash character or whatever, or never repair again or whatever they want to do. Just never let Ezra Miller back into that role is what I would say. And hopefully they've, I just hope that yeah they go on forward and forget about that whole catastrophe of a movie. Anyways, so I watched Shazam! Fury of the Gods. I was not a fan of the first Shazam movie. I didn't care for the villain or the plot overall, and I thought it wasn't very well. It wasn't a very well written movie. I thought overall, and it felt like it just repeated itself over and over again. And so I was not that excited about Shazam! Fury of the Gods, but I thought, I'm on a plane. I need to entertain myself from this 10-hour flight. I haven't seen this movie, and it's got some action probably in it, so maybe it'll entertain me. Anyway, so I watched it and I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was actually a much better movie than the first one. And most of that's just because I like the villains, the three female villains, kind of, or really there's like maybe one major female villain, but there's like three females that are kind of like the villains of the movie that come in. And I thought their story is actually, I enjoyed their whole storyline of, coming, getting the staff and then getting power that way. And overall, I thought it was a really fun movie. I thought it was very funny. Again, Zachary Levi, I believe his name is, was really good as Shazam, the main character. And I thought there's a lot of funny dialogue in there. And the action was really well done. And overall, yeah, I just thought it was a fun movie. There's not really a lot more saying that, really. Just that I'd give it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was a solid recommend for me. I really enjoyed the whole thing. So yeah, and a lot of people gave this really bad review. I think it mostly got bad reviews. It didn't do that well in the box office. So I don't know. I'm kind of surprised me watching it going, actually, I'm usually the person that's like, oh, this movie's overrated or everybody usually likes it. And I'm like, I don't like it or something like that. But this is one of the few times where it's the other way around where everybody didn't like it. But I'm like, I kind of liked it. So that's Shazam! Fury of the Gods. All right. I'm actually getting pretty close to ending this. I got like 4 more movies left, I think, to talk about. Let me get through this. We're almost only 10 hours. So that's not too bad for one of these because these can go pretty long. What I've been watching stuff. Um, I think next I'm gonna go with. There's 3 bad movies and 1 good movie I got left, basically. Um, First, I guess talk about Fast X, the 10th Fast and Furious movie. And I'm kind of on the line of like, I thought Fast like 5, 6, and 7 were pretty good action flicks. I thought they did a lot of good stuff there. But then 8 and 9, I thought were terrible movies and were just too over the top. Of course, they're all over the top, but for some reason, 8 and 9 really took it to another level where I was like, okay, where are we going with these characters? Where are we going with the storyline? I feel like we have way too many sequels to this story, and I don't get how they keep coming up with new storylines to put these characters in. It just feels very tiring. The plots, the characters, just too much at this point. So I had no interest in Fast 10 or Fast X. But again, it was on like video on demand, and I was like, it's a stupid action movie. I'm in the mood sometimes. Like I said, I'm in the mood a lot of times for stupid action movies. So I was like, I'll watch it, see what's going on here. And yeah, it's a terrible movie. One of the worst movies of the year, definitely. Just so stupid. The plot is, I think, and Jason Momoa, I hate his performance so much. It's the worst performance. Or at least. I'll have to think about it, but it's one of the worst performances of the year. And the character, I hated that character. He's a villain character. He was so over the top, trying to be funny or something like that. And I like anytime Jason Momoa tries to be funny, it's just cringe. It doesn't work. He did it in another movie I saw a year ago on Netflix, which I'm forgetting the name of it, but he tried to play kind of a humorous character, and it just did not work at all. Jason Momoa works well as being a tough, big, strong, tough guy. That's his role. I mean, I would even say he's good as Aquaman. I don't mind him as Aquaman. I think it works really well for him that role. So it's funny how the last couple of times I've seen him, I'm like, I don't like his performance. And this is one. Yeah, I just thought it was just I don't know if it's him or it's the director that's really bad, but he just does all these weird things to try to be funny, but it's not funny and it just didn't work. Like if I'm trying to remember, like he does things like someone has a gun and then he'll start rubbing the gun and making faces, and it's like, why is he rubbing the gun with his hand and making faces? It's just so stupid. And I feel like at one point he licks a girl's face for no reason. It just comes out of nowhere, I think. And I always thought, like, whose idea was that? Was it Jason Momoa thought, hey, I think my character would lick her face, or did the director go, hey, how about lick her face this time in this take? You know, I think that'd be good for the character. Whoever came up with it, I'm like, this is I just didn't like it at all. Yeah, and so his character just really ruined the whole movie for me. But the dialogue is absolutely horrible throughout the whole movie. There's a lot of bad puns that come and go, and yeah, the characters are just terrible. I don't know. I just Slumberland, yes, Slumberland. Yeah, I watched Slumberland like a year ago. Well, you know that movie, Abby? Maybe you watched it too, but I thought Jason Momoa was terrible in Slumberland. It was on my worst 5 performance of the year list that I made that year. Um, I can't remember who won, but I think he was nominated. I nominated him for worst performance of the year last year, and I'll probably nominate him this year for worst performance. The way it's going for this role as the villain in Fast X. But yeah, it's just the characters. Yeah, I'm just don't care for these characters anymore. It's just, and they look old. Like Vin Diesel's just looking old now, and he's still trying to be the tough guy. It's like it's not working for me. Yeah, it's a 1 out of 5 stars. It's a horrible movie. Very not recommend. Um, all right, then I'm gonna go to Transformers: Rise of the Beast. Another movie. I don't know why I watched it. I don't like Transformers. Why do I watch it? Again, it's a stupid action movie, so I was like, I'm gonna watch it. So I feel like I could probably get through it pretty quickly. It's like sometimes I'm like, do I watch the stupid action movie or do I watch this 3 hour drama? And I go, I'm gonna watch the stupid action movie because at least I won't be too bored. If I'm watching the 3 hour drama, I'll probably be bored. So sometimes I'm like, I know this 3 hour drama is probably a better movie or it's better acted, better made. But sometimes I'm like, I'd rather just watch the stupid action movie. So I'm watching Transformers: Rise of the Beast, and to be honest, it's one of the best Transformers movies. It's my second favorite Transformers movies, probably behind the first Transformers, which I still think is a pretty fun movie, and I really like. But they've been really bad from Transformers 2 on. It just gets worse and worse. Like I feel like every movie gets really it gets just stupider and stupider and just boring, just over. I mean, there's a lot of action, but yet there's just so much CGI going on that I just don't care. And just I find myself being bored, even though there's these big action pieces, and I don't care about the characters at all, especially human characters. Just don't care. And they keep bringing in new bots and all this. Anyways, it's just I don't know. I've just been tired of the series for a long time. And I figured this movie was going to be terrible like the rest, but I'm still giving it a 2.5 out of 5 stars, so it's still a not recommend, a light not recommend. So it was very close to giving. I was very close to giving this recommendation because I actually kind of enjoyed the storyline with the Beast and all that, Transformer Beast people and the villains coming. To, they're looking for this thing. I forget. And overall, I thought it was actually not too over the top like a lot of them are. It was actually somewhat more grounded, I guess, in a way than most of them. And I thought the action was done, pretty well. The bots were actually pretty interesting overall. I even like what's his name? Kind of the main bot guy was played by Peter something, guy from Saturday Night Live. I don't like the guy, the actor. I don't like him at all. But he voiced one of the Transformers and Autobots, whatever. And I thought he's actually a pretty funny character. And actually, that was probably my favorite character in the whole movie. Was I want to say it's like Peter David or something like that. But that's not right. Peter Davis, is that it? I don't know. Anyways, I actually thought his voice acting was actually pretty funny, and the character was pretty funny. And so that was the best thing about the movie. I'll say I can't give a recommendation just because I thought the two human characters were the most uninteresting characters of all time. Like they're very uninteresting and boring. And what you can say what you want about Shia LaBeouf, but his character was funny and was charismatic and was interesting and carried those first like 3 movies. But these two actors just cannot carry a movie. I think they're just not good enough actors. They're not movie stars, I guess I should say, to carry a action franchise like Transformers. Like even Mark Wahlberg, at least he's a good enough actor or interesting enough actor or big enough actor superstar that he can carry. You know, those Transformer movies are terrible. Like I still understand getting Mark Wahlberg in there because he can at least bring something interesting to the character. But these two actors just could not do it, and I think the big problem is they should have got bigger superstars into those human roles. And if they could have made them interesting, I could have given this a recommendation. But because of those two actors, really, it just I still was not interested enough to ever watch this movie again. So I had to put in the not recommend because it was almost there, but I don't know, it just wasn't quite there for me to say, yeah, this is a movie you need to watch, or I want to watch it again. So yeah, I'm just giving a light not recommend there for transfer, but much better than I thought it was going to be. I expected a 1-star movie, gave me 2.5, so good for them. They did a lot better than they beat the spread on that one. All right, so now I'm gonna go with the worst movie I've seen so far this year. Um, the movie that was the worst movie was Peter and Wendy that I saw on Disney Plus. That was definitely like the worst movie I saw so far this year until I saw this movie. I saw it on I think on video on demand, and it's called Asteroid City by Wes Anderson. And Wes Anderson's a guy that he's always on my radar. Anytime he makes a movie, I'm kind of interested in it because he's a bit of hit or miss director for me. He's very quirky. He has this very quirky sense, of course, very original ideas, very original storytelling ideas, and the way he makes movies and the style is just so unique that it's always great when you get these unique directors making movies and do something different. So he does something different all the time with his movies, and sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's terrible. In this sense, it's terrible because it's just so weird and out there that it just didn't make any sense to me or do anything at all entertainment wise. Um, and it's so sad because he was on such a huge role, and the last two movies have been just absolutely my least favorite Wes Anderson movies. Because to me, I would say like my favorite is again I'm having a hard time remembering movies. Um, I forget now the name of the movie, but it's like something Moon, I think, is the name of the movie. Hopefully Abby's watching; she can tell me what it is. Um, and then the Grand Budapest Hotel was really good movie. That's like my two favorite movies was those two movies he did, I think, right in a row. Um, which I'm forgetting the name of that one movie, but anyways, he did that in Grand Budapest Hotel, whatever, and both were, I think, really good movies. Definitely the best that he's done. I also like Royal Tenenbaums, another movie I really like from him, and Fantastic Mr. Fox is really good as well. The Isle of Dogs is okay. I probably need to watch it again. It's kind of, I don't know, it's like half a good movie that I can remember. Still has some good stuff there, but yeah. So and Budapest Hotel was his most successful. Moonrise Kingdom. Thank you. I was gonna say. I know you know it. Yes, Moonrise Kingdom is my favorite Wes Anderson movie. I really like that movie. And then Grand Budapest Hotel is probably my second favorite movie that he's done. Anyway, so they did those, and they did Isle of Dogs, which was okay. But he was on this great role because like Grand Budapest Hotel was nominated for Best Picture, and it won like 4 Oscars or something like that. It won like Best uh, Production Design, I think Best Musical Score, maybe Best Makeup or something. I don't know. It won like a bunch of technical awards. And after that, I was like, wow, Wes Anderson's such on a huge role. Like I was like, at that point, I was like, I'm into anything he comes. It's one of those things where it's like any movie he comes out with, I'm watching it, and I'm excited to watch it because like he's just putting out banger after banger. And then he puts out The French Dispatch a couple of years ago, and I don't think I saw it in the theater. I think I waited till it was like on streaming, and I caught that one, and I thought it was a terrible movie. It was just, and at the time I said it was too Wes Anderson like, like it's too quirky. Like I like him being quirky, but it was like too quirky of a movie that I just didn't enjoy at all. Anyway, so then he comes out to Asteroid City, and so I'm kind of on this, after a director does a bad movie, I'm kind of afraid of the next movie because I'm like, oh no, now he's on a downturn, he's on a bad, but directors make good and bad movies. They go in hills and valleys. They'll make some bad ones. They'll make some good. I mean, Some of them make just bad ones, but sometimes, you know, even the good directors like Steven Spielberg will make some bad ones. Um, oh yeah, thanks, Abby. Yeah, definitely. I need someone to, because I don't have IMDb in front of me. um, but but Wes Anderson, yeah. So it's like he was on a high. Now he's starting to go on a low. So I was like, when this movie came out, I'm like kind of cautious about it. I'm like, okay, I know he can make a bad movie because like I'm not a fan of Rushmore. Like that's one of my least favorite Wes Anderson movies. And The Life Aquatic of Sazu, I didn't like that movie either. That's one of my least favorite from him. So he's like half good movies, half bad movies kind of thing. But then French Dispatch was like the worst I've ever seen until I saw this one. And so finally I went and saw Asteroid City. Didn't really know much about what it was about. Anyways, but watching it, it is the most confusing movie. Like one of the most confusing. I shouldn't say the most confusing. It's up there though. I can't explain. I can't explain the plot. It's just so weird and out there. Except they're in this place. I don't know. I can't remember now if they're in New Mexico or something. I don't know. And they're at this. I think they're supposed to be at a convention or something like that. But then someone's making a movie at the same time, and so I don't know if anything's real or fake. I never understand what's going on with these characters. And like, there's his family, and like the mom died, I think, and Schwartzman's, I think, the dad, and he's telling his kids for the first time that their mom is like dead. I guess been dead for like weeks and weeks, and they didn't know. So they, anyways, and as Wes Anderson does, they don't really act the way kids should be acting in this moment, and they kind of follow the kids a little bit. Anyways, and then they cut to this other part where they're like making a black and white movie. And if what I'm saying doesn't make any sense, it didn't make any sense to me. So I'm just telling you kind of stuff I can remember from the movie because I can't remember too much because I hated this movie so much. But it's going back and forth between these two things that I didn't get why there was this black and white movie happening sometimes, and sometimes they're at this asteroid city part, and there's even a part where a UFO comes down, an alien comes out, and they put something out there, and I think it grabs it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's aliens, and then it goes back, and then it's like, okay, what was that whole alien thing? I didn't get what was going on with the alien. So that's a big deal or something. And I don't know. I thought that was the whole plot, but it was like that was just a little bit of the plot. And then there's like a romance in there, and it's just it was just a horrible movie. It didn't make any sense. I Again, too quirky. Like he was doing too much. Like I don't know if Wes Anderson can make it a little more simpler, his movies would be better. But I feel like he's just making it too complicated or something. And his movies are comedies mostly. They're supposed to be funny. I didn't laugh at all throughout the whole movie. And Tom Hanks was in it, which was cool. It's like, all right, Tom Hanks. Didn't care for him at all. Didn't care for any of the characters. None of them were funny. There was not one funny thing that happened throughout the whole movie. So, and I didn't get what was going on at all during the whole movie. Yeah, so it's like I have to give it a half a star, which is the worst rating I can give a movie. Well, anyways, I can give on the app that I have where you rank movies. Anyways, where you rate movies. Anyways, the half star is the worst you can do on there. So I'm giving it a half a star. I'm giving it the absolute worst rating I can give it. That's how bad this movie is. It's the worst movie I've seen all year. It's a worst Anderson movie, and it's going to go down. Yeah, it's one of my least favorite of the year. I'm sure there's not going to be hopefully too many more movies I see as worse as this one. But it's very disappointing too. And I'm just very disappointed in Wes Anderson, man. I wish he was on such a roll. Now he's on such a bad role. Like, it'd be nice if he can get another good movie because I love when he gets a really good, funny, interesting movie out there. Hopefully he can do that again. But right now, I'm not too high on Wes Anderson. Like, I'm not really rushing out to see the next Wes Anderson movie, to be honest, after this one. But there's just absolutely no entertainment value. I was going to say, if there was at least one thing that happened that I was kind of entertained by, I might give it a 1 star. But after I watched it, I was like, wow, there was not one moment I was entertained. I have to give it half a star anyways. So I can't recommend. Do not watch Asteroid City. If you're a Wes Anderson fan, watch it. You might disagree with me. I think there's some people that do like this movie, so they get it. I don't get it. It's one of those things where I just didn't get the movie, and the people that like it are going to say you just didn't get it, and I go, yeah, I didn't get it. I'll agree with you there. I didn't get the movie. So yeah, that's Irisford City. All right, last movie I'll talk about. Actually, the last movie I saw in the movie theater, and one of the biggest movies of the year, I think, and that is Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. And I'm a big Mission Impossible fan. I've got most of them. I don't have one and two, but I've got 3 through 6 on Blu-ray. And this is the 7th movie in the series. This was definitely like I was looking forward to John Wick Chapter 4, and I was looking forward to Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part One. Those are the two movies the whole year. This is all I've been thinking about is John Wick Chapter 4 and Mission Impossible. So this is definitely I knew those were the two I was going to see in the theater because I don't see too many movies in theater. I did see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in the theater, so I've seen 3 movies in the theater this year, and so that's how. If I saw in the theater, that means I really was anticipating and I was expecting a lot from the movie. But anyways, but yeah, so I saw Mission Impossible in the theater just before I went on my vacation, in fact. And overall, yeah, it's a solid entry into the Mission Impossible series. Though I would say it's right in the middle for me. Out of 7 movies, I put this 4th. So I put it right in the middle. Like, you know, it's not nearly the worst. It's not nearly the best. It's just right in the middle for me, which I still give it a good review, though. I still give it 3.5 out of 5 stars, which is a solid recommend. It still has a lot of good stuff in there, a lot of good action sequences, a lot of good stunts still. Tom Cruise is still a fun actor to watch. Even in his 60s, it's just incredible what he's doing. Though I feel like he didn't do as much in this movie as he done in the other movies. I mean, and that's probably crazy for me to say that because I know he has that big. Everybody talks about that motorcycle jump. That's the big stunt he does in this movie. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but I don't know if it's any better than some of the other stunts he's done in the other movies. And I think I do see his age a little bit coming out in this movie, but what can you expect? The guy's in the 60s. He's still making these action movies, which is just incredible. Um, but yeah, I would say like I said, still the action set pieces were very well done, I think. Storyline I didn't like though. I'll say that like it all deals with AI, which that's the big thing everybody talks about is AI. Artificial intelligence. Computers that are self-aware that can because we're all afraid. If computers start taking over the world, then we're all in trouble, of course. And if robots start coming around, and we're gonna be slaves to robots or something. So that's kind of a legitimate fear in real life is that computers are getting too smart. And so we're playing off of that. And to me, it felt too it felt too sci-fi for Mission Impossible. I don't think Mission Impossible is a sci-fi show necessarily or a supernatural show. So I don't know. When you start going, oh, there's this AI that can control everything, and the whole story has to be that there's this AI, and it's called something. I forget what it's called. The something. And so this AI is we need to get this AI is controlling everything, and we need to get to it and destroy it or something like that. Is kind of the idea behind Ethan Hunt and the Mission Impossible team, is that all these countries want to get control of the AI, so then they can have ultimate power. But of course, he's like, we just need to destroy it somehow, so nobody has the power of this entity. I think it was called the Entity or something like that. It was the name of the AI that they kind of gave a name to. Anyway, so yeah, it just seemed a little too sci-fi-ish to me. Like I don't know if I care about that. And a villain being a faceless, computer is never the most interesting villain, I think, in a movie. And I feel like we've seen it so many times, like same storyline of like iRobot, let's say, and of course, yeah, the Terminator series, and it's yeah, there's just so many movies where AI is the bad guy and you have to fight the AI. Anyway, so to me, it's like, it seems like something we've done before. So I was a little disappointed with the overall storyline, I would say. What I do like is like I said, I would say like there's the Rome scene is the best scene, well, one of the best scenes in the movie. The car chase scene in Rome was a really fun scene. And it took quite a long time too, I think, of the movie, but that was a blast. It's funny in John Wick Chapter 4 they had a kind of car chase scene in Rome, and so it's like here's a second action movie I've seen this year where they have a car chase scene in Rome, anyways. But yeah, really well done, very fun. Yeah, exciting action wise. Lots of different characters coming into play. that was fun. There's a scene at the airport. I think it was a really fun scene. Lots of stuff are going on, and lots of, they bring in the new character played by Haley Atwell, kind of comes in at that point, and we're trying to figure out who the villain is, kind of, and trying to figure out what her role is and everything. And then, yeah, it's a real fun scene. I actually kind of enjoy that scene quite a bit. And then, of course, the last scene on the train was also very well done, especially like the last part where the train is going over a cliff and they've got to jump from each car to safety. It was really well done uh, and thrilling kind of action series. So I'd say because of those three action set pieces, I'm giving this a solid recommend. And again, I just really love the series. I love Tom Cruise as this character, and I like Simon Pegg too. He's always great in his character, and actually really good female characters. One of the best movies with females in them, I would say, with Rebecca Ferguson coming back and playing her character again. And you have Haley Atwell coming in. I thought she was. I mean, her character was kind of annoying because Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt keeps saving her, and then she keeps stabbing him in the back. After a while, I'm like, I don't like this character really, and like I don't care if she lives or dies. But of course, they make her a main character, so she's got to live, that kind of thing, or be a big part of it. Then the actress who uh, plays Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy is in here, so it's cool seeing her a different part than Mantis. And I thought she was kind of this, the henchman of the villain, like the main henchman of the villain. I thought she was good in it. I mean, it was a small part. She didn't talk really hardly at all, but I still enjoyed her quite a bit. And then there's another actress. Now I'm trying. Vanessa. I think her name is it Vanessa. Uh, but she plays kind of. I don't know if she's a villainous character. She's kind of a. Don't really know if she's a villain or a good guy kind of character. Vanessa Kirby, I think her name is, the actress, but she's actually pretty good in it as well. So I did like the female roles as well in this one. Like I said, my criticism is the storyline, and the action's done, like I said, done very well. The villain actually kind of enjoyed this guy named Gabriel, I think, in the movie, who acts on the. I didn't understand his relationship with AI, but he's like helping the AI, and then there's this like relationship that he has with Ethan, like they have a history together. I didn't quite understand all of this, what was going on there. I understand why he's helping the AI out. Like I didn't get that part. So there's some moments where I don't really understand the story or the characters or what's going on there. But overall, I thought actually he did a pretty good job though. As kind of this villain character, and some of the action stuff he did was actually really good. Um, and he's very easy to hate because he's a pretty horrible person. So I like all that. There was some lazy. I thought there was some lazy filmmaking in it, though. I would say, like, kind of disappointed me. There's a couple times where Ethan Hunt would be in a situation where it's like he's in a car in one point and a train's coming. He's like handcuffed to the wheel of the car, and a train's coming, and it's coming, of course, and he's trying to undo the thing, and you're like, oh no, he's going to undo the. You think in your mind, of course, he's going to undo the. You can't kill Ethan Hunt. It's like halfway through the movie. And so you're like, okay, he's going to, uncuff himself, pick the lock and jump out of the car right before the train hits. So you're like, oh, okay, it's going to be kind of exciting anyways. Anyway, so the train comes, it hits the car. You never see Ethan Hunt jump out of the car. You just see the train hit the car. And then the next shot, he's outside the car with the wheel stuck to him. And you go, how did he get out of that? We didn't see it. We didn't see him do it. It was like the director or whatever put him in the situation, couldn't figure out how to get him out of it. So there's like, we'll just pretend that you got out of it, and we'll just hope the audience doesn't really think about it or doesn't notice that we didn't really show how you got out of it. We'll just go, oh, you magically got out, So I hated that. I hated when they do that. They did it there. They did it at another point later in the movie, like when they're the train sequence. There's a sequence where it's like, oh, he's not getting out of this situation unless a miracle happens. So you're like wondering, what's going to happen to get this guy out of this Ethan Hunt out of this situation where he's going to fall to his death, and they don't show how he gets up. They just cut and they get back to the scene, and he's got out of the situation. And you're just like, huh, he seemed like that was an impossible situation to get out of, and you didn't show us how he got out of it. You just go, we'll just let the audience pretend in their mind that, oh, we'll just we'll fix the movie for you and play the part that you should have showed us in our mind, try to piece the pieces together, like, oh, maybe this is how he got out of it. So it's like we as an audience have to do the work for the filmmaker because he couldn't figure out how to get the character out of the situation. So that was very frustrating because, like I said, I think he did at least twice, maybe more in that movie, where it was like, oh, he actually got out of the situation. We didn't show you how he got out. Your guess is as good as mine how he got out, but he got out. And so to me, that's just very lazy filmmaking. And maybe, like I said, because either they put himself in a corner they couldn't get out of, so they had just do it that way, which is too bad. Or Tom Cruise is just too old to do all the stunts, and so they, instead of making Tom Cruise do a stunt, they're like, he magically got out of the situation, no questions asked. Anyway, so that's what hurts the movie for me is the stuff like that happened to it. There's some frustrating moments in the movie, I would say. The movie's too long. It's like 2.5, 240 minutes. I forget. It's way too long. I remember watching the movie theater and just like and thinking I didn't know how long the movie was when I came in, but I remember watching it going, "Huh, feels like this movie's gone on for a long time." And it's funny. I always go to the movie theater and I go like during the daytime, and I swear I'll go to during the daytime, and when I come out of the movie theater, it's dark, and I'm always like, "Well, what happened?" Like it was, I came in the daytime, and now it's nighttime. Like, was I in the theater that long? And you realize, oh, this movie was just a really long movie. Plus, you have 20 minutes of trailers, so you have to watch 20 minutes of trailers. Then you got to watch this very long movie, and so by the time you get out, you're like, I've been in this movie theater for 3 freaking hours. And my whole day's gone. It feels like I just wasted my whole day. And I didn't waste my whole day because I enjoyed the movie, but still, there's a part of me that's like, where did my day go? My day off, it's gone. Anyway, so I didn't like that. I wish they would have made the movie 30 minutes, uh, 30 minutes shorter, I would say. And this is the problem with movies the whole summer for me. John Wick Chapter 4, way too long. It was like 2 hours and 50 minutes. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, way too long. Again, it was at least 2.5 hours. This movie, way too long, 2.5 hours. And I'm like, can we not make a good 2 hour action movie? It's not, it should be possible. It's not impossible. No, pardon the pun there, but it should not be impossible to make a good 2 hour action movie. Like, why can't we do that? Or make even a 90-minute action movie. I say the shorter the better. We don't need long movies, anyways. And I don't need to spend that much time in the movie theater. Anyway, so that's my criticism. Still, I'm giving it 3.5 stars. I still think it's actually a pretty solid movie. And I actually even got I'm gonna go see. I got a poster actually out of it, which I thought was kind of cool. And if anybody went and saw it, you probably got the same poster maybe. But yeah, there it is. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1 IMAX. I didn't go to IMAX, but Tom Cruise, I guess. Anyways, that's a small poster, but I have a Top Gun Maverick poster up there that I got when I saw Top Gun Maverick last summer. So that was kind of cool that sometimes you go and they're like, hey, here's a free poster. And the only problem is they give you to the poster when you walk in. So now you got to carry around this poster. And like, I have to go to the bathroom. So I'm like, I'm carrying the poster with me to the bathroom. Like, well, where am I put this poster when I'm going to the bathroom? Like, and so now I got to like figure a way to hold it. That part I don't like about it. I'm like, I'd rather be like, give it to me on my way out and I can go to my car and put it in my car. But now I got to carry it around the movie theater. But still, it's like, I got another poster I can put on my wall at some point. We'll see. Anyway, so, but yeah, so that's what I've been watching. I went through quite a bit there. 15 movies, covered 15 movies in an hour and a half. Anyway, so I hope anybody watching this gets some enjoyment out of my reviews. I know Mike from Did You See That loves when I rant about movies, so hopefully you'll enjoy when I rant about my least favorite movies. And thanks, Abby, for being in the chat. Appreciate you. And you agree with me? Yeah, everything's just too long. I agree. Anyway, so yeah, thanks a lot. And yeah, I'll definitely get into those Beatle rankings and my album rankings, try to get back into that pretty soon anyway. So yeah, hope everybody has a good day and good rest of the week. And I'll talk to you later.